Well, I'm sorry, my friends. I'm about a minute late because I pushed the wrong button somewhere. I don't know what I did, but I got confused. Hey, at 67 years old, having just had a birthday last week, and by the way, Caleb had a birthday last week too, and it's already December. I'm entitled to make a mistake now and again, and we're going to talk about another mistake I made before long here too. I'm just going to air all my dirty laundry today. And this is totally ad lib. I don't have anything, well, I don't have anything planned to say except for the things that I have planned to say. And that's not very many things. So let's get started. First thing is, we kind of got a new little setup here. I got this Yeti microphone, which I've had for a very long time, but I just connected it up to our Logitech webcam and through the computer, of course. And I don't know why it never occurred to me. I just didn't think that webcam with its own built-in mic would work with the Yeti. I don't know why I didn't try it before. I'm 67, I guess, is the reason I didn't try it before. But anyway, we're trying it now, and it seems to be working. And that should keep us from overdriving the mic, I think. So I think we're in good shape that way. Let's see. First thing I wanted to talk about was all of those really negative comments on that last video that we put out. Well, it wasn't the very last one, but the video before last, where we had the video inside of the video. Nobody liked that. When I first saw it, I thought, yeah, I'm not too crazy about that. But as I watched it, it didn't bother me. I kind of liked it. But then again, I like rope burns, and not everybody likes rope burns. But I got you. I heard you. You don't like it. We won't put any more video inside a video. Yeah, whatever. Lighten up a little bit, okay? We're all doing this just for fun, right? So yeah, we did hear you on that, and the other thing we heard on there, but I already knew it before I heard it, was that I made a mistake on that guitar, and I didn't get that little brace put back inside the guitar. After 700 to 800 videos that we've got out now, you're bound to screw up once in a while. That's the first mistake I ever made right there. So, I'm doing good. I don't know. Some things sometimes it just happens. Fortunately, that's not a critical brace at all. It won't affect anything in that guitar. In fact, if anything, well, actually, it will affect something. It'll actually make it sound better. When you will be surprised if you could play the guitar without any bracing in it at all, how much better it would sound. Honestly, you wouldn't believe it. And the reason I know that is because I've built other instruments and not put any bracing in them, and they sound awesome. For instance, and I'm just going to air some more dirty laundry here, I built a mandolin for, well, it's a long story. I built it for a customer. He rejected it. I turned it over to a really good mandolin player to just play locally for a while, and he was supposed to pay me for it. He never did. I reclaimed it. Then about that time, little Joe Dean was looking for a mandolin, so I took it apart and cleaned it all up and made it like brand new for Joe Dean. And I put new bracing inside of it, and of course, guess what I used? I used hide glue to glue those braces inside that mandolin. Long story short, this is totally ad lib. I wasn't planning to talk about this. But anyway, I glued those braces up inside there. Well, guess what? It was really humid where I did that, and I'm assuming that was the problem. And those braces turned loose and fell out later. Hide glue. It stands for holds initially, delaminates eventually. That's what hide stands for. Holds initially, delaminates it eventually. Well, anyway, both of those braces fell out of Joe Dean's mandolin. He says, I don't want the braces back in. It sounds awesome. And it really does. And that's the one that was played on that Oh, I can't think of those people's names. Jimmy Fortune and Rogers and Isaacs, those guys that have that band and did those recordings. My mandolin was played in those recordings, and it sounds awesome. And that's the one without any bracing on the inside. There you go, some more dirty laundry. But it was because of hide glue. I've told you, don't use hide glue. There you go. Okay, totally ad lib, like I said. What's the next ad lib thing I want to tell you? Alison Krauss. I'm telling you right now, you need to pay attention to what I'm about ready to tell you. Well, Allison and I knew each other years and years ago when she first kind of got started in bluegrass, and when I definitely first got started in bluegrass. I was older than her. I was 28-ish to 30-ish when I knew Allison pretty well. We used to jam together quite a bit, and at the local fiddle contests and little bluegrass shows and things. You know, I'd see her, I'd jump in her jam session, she'd see me, she'd jump in my jam session, that type of thing. So we were friends. Well, every once in a while check her out. Well, somehow or another, this particular video that's on YouTube, I missed it. And it's 8 years old, and I never did see this video until yesterday. You have to check this video out. I swear to you, it's the finest thing you will see on YouTube. Now, the resolution, I will tell you, isn't that great. The resolution, it's an old video, and the resolution is fairly low, but the sound is absolutely awesome. The content is absolutely awesome. It is the finest recorded event I've ever witnessed in my life. I mean, it's that good. And if you miss it, it's your loss. So there's a link in the description. I would highly, highly, highly recommend you check it out. Hopefully you do it after the shop talk this morning. But I'm seriously telling you, it really is that good. There's a lot of backstory in this recording. It's all the songs that I've heard Allison do over the years, but I didn't know they were all done in a videoed live recording session. And all the people that are in there, James Taylor, Brad Paisley, John Pennine, I think this is his name, or I'm saying that, maybe saying that wrong. But anyway, there's a bunch of people in there, and Tony Rice, and it just goes on and on. They're just all stars, and it's just the single best recorded event I ever have witnessed, ever. And her voice in this recorded event, it's like angels. And the funny thing is, I've always said this. I've said this since I've known Allison from the beginning. And that is, when I get to heaven, if they don't sound as good as Alison Krauss, I'm coming back. Well, guess what Brad Paisley said in this video? He said the exact same thing. I thought, wow, that's pretty funny. He said the exact same thing I've always said. That's pretty funny. So anyway, check it out. There's a link in the description. I promise you, absolutely promise you, I don't care if you're into heavy metal, you will love this. It is that good. There is no better music on the planet than this particular recording that you're going to watch. Okay, that's the name of that tune. The last video I just put out was kind of reviewing my little brand new saw, and I was cutting some cedar trees down. It's a mystery project that I'm doing here on the farm. I've already got the sawmill fired up, and I've been sawing up those cedar logs that you saw in that video. And again, I'm not telling you what the mystery project is yet, but there are a lot of guesses out there, and I will say some of them are pretty warm. So anyway, that's all I'll say on that part right now. And I just wanted to add that I do like the little steel chainsaw pretty well. It's very cold-natured. When I first started, I may have to adjust the carburetor or something, or take it back and have them adjusted. I don't know. But when you first started, it just goes, I mean, like you pull the trigger, you pull it, and it just keeps, bogging down and bogging down. And after about 2 minutes, it'll finally rev up, So I don't know. I got a problem there. I'm pretty sure it's just a carburetor adjustment. So, but other than that, I do actually like the saw. Once it gets warmed up, just the least little pull on that straight, the least little pull starts it. It's crazy. I've never seen a saw like it. But on the other hand, I also think it's probably something that'll break down the road. So time will tell on that. You know, I'm going to tell you something. I'm a little let down by you guys. I really am. And I'm not just saying that. I'm kind of disappointed. Very few people have gone over and subscribed to my son's channel. I just want to say this and I'll move on. And that is that I feel like you all do appreciate the content that we've put out here. We've worked really hard to put out nearly 800 videos now. And, you know, I'm just asking for one little favor. Just go over there and subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description. That could be your little bit of payback to me. I would really appreciate it very much. So thank you. I have this for sale. This furnace. This is a high efficiency furnace. I'll be honest with you, it was given to me, but I had to drive a long ways to pick it up. I had ideas that I might install it here on the farm. And the truth is, I'm not going to get around to it. That's just the bottom line truth. The furnace was in very dirty condition when I got it. I mean, it was really dirty. I took several hours, I would say 5 or 6 hours actually, and cleaned it all up. Now, it's been sitting in my building here collecting dust again. So it's just dusty. It's actually very good shape. But it is coated in dust as you see these pictures. It's just been sitting there. I clogged up all the inlets, the outlets, so no critters could get in there and build nests and all that. But I did clean the whole thing inside, outside, all the different parts of it. It takes a lot of plumbing to plumb this particular type furnace, but I do have it for sale. If anybody would like to purchase it, just send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. It is a very, very fine looking old furnace, very high efficiency model. I can't remember the model number there, and I can't see it on the tag. I think it's something like Dillon 40 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But if you're interested in that, send me an email, rosastringworks@gmail.com. And it comes with that platform there. That's a forklift platform for lifting it. 2 men and a boy ain't going to put this in a truck. It's pretty heavy. I've got a forklift here, and I can lift it and put it in whatever you want to bring, a trailer or a truck or whatever, to get it out. So I'll make you a good deal on it. These things would sell for big, big bucks, many thousands of dollars if you bought one new. I'll make you a really, really good deal on it, just because I need the space in the shop there, in the barn. Okay, the next ad lib topic is this. What are these? These are frost flowers. A lot of people, especially folks in the city, subdivisions, that type of thing, almost never see these things. But when you're out here on the farm on a really cold morning in the 20s, they're pretty much everywhere. And they sprout up from the ground, and they're just ice crystals that just form in random patterns, kind of like the way snowflakes form in unique patterns. You never see two alike. And there's just a random example here that we have that I thought you might enjoy seeing. So those are frost flowers, usually when the temperatures are in the 20s. Okay, I think that's all the planned stuff I have, except for the stuff I have on the table here. So let's talk about some of that. First of all, Alan Dust, you know, he's the one that gave me these things here. And you can see Alan's name I have written on there, so I wouldn't forget that he sent these to me. And these are the things you've seen me carve the necks on the guitars. That's what I use them for mostly, is carving the necks on guitars. Anything that would be curved, these would be great for. And you just chuck it in your drill here, and you hold this, and this part spins. The drill spins this part. It's a very simple but very ingenious little way to do this, the way he built these. Well, Alan came through again. He saw my video where I kind of critiqued it a little bit, saying that I could use a shorter handle type of thing if it were, I wasn't intending that for Alan to follow up and send me anything, because I could always modify these. I mean, I've got the equipment and everything. I could have modified this very easily. I was just pointing it out to Alan in case he wanted to sell these things and stuff, and maybe even save a little material cost, because if they're a little smaller, obviously they're going to be a little cheaper to build. But anyway, he came through and he actually sent me a couple of shorter handles, and you can see here that I could interchange these rollers and put them on these handles. And I don't know why exactly he sent these extra nuts, although maybe just something I haven't noticed yet, but he sent some extra nuts in a package also. So thank you, Alan, very much. Those things really work well. And I would show you how they're made in detail, except that I don't have his permission to do that, so I'm not going to show you that. But it's a very ingenious little, very simple way to build them. And they're just great. They work really good. I think I said this before, but just, if you just handed this to me and said, this is going to work really good, I'd go, I don't think so. Just by looking at it, I wouldn't think it would work very well. Using it, it works really well. I'm amazed how good it works. It's like one of the best, handmade type tools I've ever had, really. Rick Ward saw the last shop talk, and he came through too. He sent me some more Duragold, and he sent me some water dry sheets, and these are in 600 and 800 grit. So thank you very much, Rick. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate it, but you didn't have to do that. I really do appreciate it. We have one more thing here to show you, and that is the status of the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. And again, for those of you who think I'm being, arrogant or something, or prideful or whatever, it's just my goal. That's going to be the title of the video. And by the way, that's a clickbait title. I understand that. Think about it from my perspective. If you were going to spend the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours that it takes to produce these videos, wouldn't you want people to watch them? It makes no sense to produce a video and have nobody watch it. Like, if I was producing hundreds of videos and nobody's watching them, what's the point? Yeah, clickbait, you don't like it and people get aggravated, but it works. So, yeah, I'm going to be using clickbait titles as much as possible. And so that is kind of a clickbait title, the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. But it is also a real goal of mine to build that quality of a mandolin. So here's step number one. You can see I have rough carved the back down with the grinder, and it's just rough carved at the moment. It's nowhere near ready to show off or anything, but it's just rough carved with the grinder. This one, I rough carved it, but then you can see I got a little further with it. Notice the detail in this? I'm promising you this will not be your standard F-style mandolin. This is going to be, if I have anything to say about it, the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. Listen to the tone, and this isn't even carved on the inside yet. They don't have tone at this stage, but listen to the tone. Anywhere I tap it, I can hear it that long. Crazy. I had 5 different tops to choose from. Now keep in mind, every one of them would make an excellent mandolin. Double A grade tops, all of them. This one stood out just slightly above all the rest. That's why I picked it for this mandolin. It's going to be killer. And you can see my little detail there. I think you can see it. So, Yeah. And the back will have that same kind of detail, and there's a whole lot more detail coming. Now, and for those of you who don't like that, don't like the fancy instruments, that's fine. You don't have to like it. But the way I look at it is, and so often it is the truth, they make a real fancy instrument and then it sounds like, crud. That's not going to be the case here. The sound is going in this mandolin just like it goes into all the other instruments I build, but it's even going to go into this one even that much more. Trust me, I'm not going to go through all the work to build this thing and make it highly custom like this and not put the sound in there. The sound is going in first. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make this thing sound the best of anything I've ever tried to do. I can already tell you that, this carve right here, let me just kind of walk you through what I've done. Now, these are just all done in the mornings because I've been working outside in the afternoons. But in the mornings, I've done 4 or 5 mornings. We'll count them up here. The first morning, all I did was, glue it together and make it, like that. The second morning, I routed the edge and I rough carved it. The third morning, I, kind of hand fine carved it and got it pretty darn close. And then the fourth morning, then I used a scraper and just scraped and scraped and scraped and scraped and scraped and scraped. I mean, like for several hours. And I got it to what I think is absolute perfection. It is exactly 1/1000th of an inch right here different than the Lloyd Loar mandolin that I took apart and measured. So it's within 1/1000th of an inch. Now get out your calipers and measure that. You'll see that that's pretty fine, pretty close woodworking. So I'm really proud of it so far. It's going to be something to see when it's done, especially with this kind of wood on the back and sides. It's going to be something. So, by the way, in case you're wondering, how do I measure it that accurately? I made this deal here, and it's got a dial caliper on it, and it measures in thousandths of inches. And you can see how I made it here. It's pretty simple. This is just a block of aluminum that I just put a bolt up through here, rounded off the head to match the round that's on the plunger here. And anyway, and then this just is a rocker arm with a slot in it. Has to have a slot in it there so it can slide, and that just lifts with a fork. I just made a fork there, and lifts it up and down. You can buy these, but they're pretty pricey. And back when I built this, price was an issue. So if you're, you can buy these little dial indicators for little or nothing on eBay and make the whole thing yourself. So there you go. That's how I made it. By the way, the scrapers that I used to scrape that top was my typical scraper. Now, I sharpen these different than most cabinet scraper guys do. Most cabinet scraper guys just sharpen them flat on the edge and then burnish the corners off. I don't do that. I sharpen it just like a knife. I get it razor hair shaving sharp, and then I burnish the edge over and burnish that razor sharp edge. And boy, you can just peel the wood right off just as clean and slick. And then for the detail around the little carved area here, you can't really get that big scraper in there. So I just take this and I really get down and I just do very detailed scraping, just kind of like that. And you have to scrape with the grain. In other words, you can't go against the grain, you're going to lift it. You have to go the way the grain is growing, and you have to start to understand how the grain grows in a tree, and as you carve it, how that changes, and then you have to go with that grain slant or slope and pull the way the grain is growing so that you don't tear the fibers out. So, and it's not completely finished. I mean, it's not smooth up in here and all that yet, but it's pretty close. So I'll give you some idea. That's how I did that. And the last little thing here, I wanted to talk about before I think we get into the question and answer period is I wanted to tell you that we had a band practice last night. We're going to have another band practice next Thursday night. During that band practice, we might go live for just a test, for just maybe one song or something, just to test our system to make sure it's going to be strong enough to do it. And then the following Thursday, which would be the 16th, so next Thursday, I don't know the date, but the following Thursday would be the 16th of December, and at 7 o'clock p.m., we're going to go live with a Christmas show. At least that's our intent. That's all hinging around the ability to produce a live show on our internet speed here. It's amazing that I can produce anything with our internet speed the way we have it, but I've got it tweaked to the nth degree, the best I can tweak it. So there you go. We got 162 viewers out there right now. So here's a test of the Yeti microphone. Just got another Charlie horse in my leg. It's just not easy being me. This is just the little 3/4 size mandolin that I built for that child. So that's the only one I had handy. So. Yeah, it's a little hard to play with these big hands on that little tiny neck, and arthritis in the morning is pretty stiff, as you guys know that have arthritis. So, yeah, so that's as good as I could do. But anyway, and again, there's a close look up at the little 3/4 size mandolin. It's just a little tiny thing. Okay, be sure to put question marks in front of your questions, and we will try to answer your questions for you, or do the best we can. You know me, I don't blow any smoke. If I don't know the answer to the question, I'll just tell you I don't know, and that's the way it is. Looks like I see the first one. Well, maybe there's one up above here. No. Yeah, okay. It looks like David L. says, "Hi, Jerry. In talking about bracing in guitars this morning, have you had a chance to play guitar with Taylor's V-bracing? What are your thoughts?" No, honestly, David, I don't know that I have. Now, Gary in my band, he has several Taylors. I've played several of his Taylors. They all sound really good. Now, I don't honestly know if any of those have that type of bracing. I didn't think to ask or knew about that really. So the truth is I can't answer the question fully, but Taylors are very nice guitars. They don't skimp. They're very, very nice. Why do you dye the instruments? They look much nicer in nature. Well, that's your opinion. There you go. And everybody has an opinion. I just heard yours, and I dye them because it brings out the curl in the wood and all that, and a lot of times you just don't see the curl unless you put some, like if you wet it down, for instance, you'll see the curl. If you don't see it. So I've improved my dyeing techniques over the years. That one was built 15 years ago, so it's not quite as good as what I can do now. So there you go. Did you get your internet service straightened out? Did Starlink ever contact you? Well, Starlink, a lot of folks have been putting out videos on YouTube about Starlink, and they're not quite meeting their expectations and their goals at this point in time, so it's going to be a while. They did send us an email that said it's been delayed, and who knows when or if. And quite frankly, a lot of the folks lately have not been all that high on how it's working either. So, it may not be the savior I thought it was going to be. Jerry Stanley has a question above. Let me go back to Jerry Stanley if I can find it. Thank you. I'll look and see if I can find it. Well, I don't. I see one from Francis McGinnis back up. Oh, here's Stanley. Okay. Neck is unbowed, truss rod super tight. What to learn to fix guitars cheap? Guitar 50 thousandths relief at 7th fret. That's way too much. First and held down. Best way to fix. Well, probably, Staley, there, if you've got way too much relief in your instrument, and if your truss rod's already as tight as you think you can go, then you really need to fix it mechanically, in my opinion. You can't just wish it away. You need to take, you need to loosen the truss rod, then you need to take the fingerboard off, and then you need to put some back bow in it, and then, with force. And while you're holding it in that position, and maybe it shouldn't be a lot, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't bow it like that, but you should get it completely straight and perhaps put maybe 10 thousandths back bow in it if it's really underbowed, and then glue your fingerboard back in it. Now 10 thousandths is not very much, you understand. Just so you understand, that's really small. But you need to put some back bow in it and then re-glue it all with really good, clean, make sure the surface area is really clean and make sure you get really good contact with your glue. And tight bond would be a good choice for that. And make sure it's clamped like nobody's business. Don't put 1 or 2 clamps on it. If you got 10 clamps and you can fit them in there, put 10 clamps on it. I'm being a little facetious, but seriously, put as many clamps on it as you can get on it in as tight a space that you can. And let it set for, if in a case where it's extremely backbowed like that, I would let it set for 2 or 3 days, glued up, and make sure that glue is really, really cured before you take the clamps off. If you do that, almost guarantee you'll fix it. Is that easy? No, but you didn't ask what was easy. You're asking how to fix it. And that's the way you have to fix it. Heat lamps, pressing it backwards, wishing it away, it ain't going to happen. You can do all that all day long. I've done it, and I know it ain't going to work. It'll work for a while. Don't get me wrong. It will work for a while, but it will not work permanently. Francis McGinnis had a question there too. Good morning, Jerry and Caleb. Jerry, what's the best wood for guitar bracing, and does it have to be quarter sawn? It definitely should be quarter sawn, in my opinion, because that's stronger, and you can carve it thinner because it's stronger. So it kind of works together. And the best wood depends. I like to go with the same wood that's on the top. So in other words, if you've got a spruce top, use spruce bracing. If you've got a redwood top, use redwood bracing. If you got a western cedar top, use western cedar bracing. And I've said this before, redwood, it's killer. It's just killer. Why they don't use it on all guitars, I don't know, but it's killer. It truly is. Why didn't I use it? Because nobody buys it, because it's not traditional. But seriously, build yourself a guitar with a redwood top, quarter sawn redwood top, and tell me you don't love it. You won't be able to tell me that because it's going to sound killer, I guarantee you. Okay, I'm going to scroll back down. I think that was the only 2 questions that were way up high. Bear with me as I try to read these because it's, as you know, I'm not very fast at that. Was there a heater running? There was a hum in the background for a while. No, there was no heater running. So if there's a hum, I don't know. It may be interference. I mean, the computer is down directly below this, and there's fans, so it may be that's what you're hearing. Let's see. Wow, it scrolled up a lot. I'm sorry. I got to find where it moved. Okay. Can I make quarter sawn wood on my sawmill? Well, there's a lot of ways for quarter sawn wood. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't know if you can see this. I'll just try to draw a little bit of something. This won't be any kind of great artistic achievement, but if you picture your round log and it's like a bullseye and it's just kind of like that. That's the way the rings grow. You can pie slice it. In other words, slice it like that. That's going to be quarter sawn. And then like you would slice right down between the two there like that. You open that up and the one that's between, those are facing each other, so you open it up like a book, then your grain matches on one side, matches on the other. That's perfectly quarter sawn wood. But that's not exactly wasteful, if you will, if you're building a carved top, but it's wasteful if you're building a guitar or something, I guess. Even though I know they do it this way a lot, even for guitars. It depends on the sawyer, the guy that's doing the work. But the other way to quarter saw wood, for instance, every log, if you slab saw it, is going to have quarter sawn wood. Like if you see the two lines going across here, on each side of the center, on each side, that's going to be quarter sawn over here, and it's going to be quarter sawn over here. Now, the rest of it's going to be rift sawed or slab sawed or flat sawn, so it's not going to be perfectly quarter sawn. So those are the ways you can quarter saw wood, for instance. I have thought about making some sort of an attachment for my sawmill that would take short pieces, the length I need, and quarter saw them and spin it and quarter saw in, spin it, quarter saw in, spin it, quarter saw in. You know what I mean? So in other words, it's like cutting slices of pie out of the length of the log. Slide in, pull out, slide in, pull out, that type of thing. And anyway, I've thought about making an attachment for that would work on my saw. I haven't done it yet, and the truth is, I'm probably not going to now because of that. So anyway, in other words, I'm scaling down, not up. So if I were in a different mode, I probably would make one of those. Let's see here. Let me find where I'm at again. Do I use the thicknessing technique from the Seminoff book for the F5, and what thickness is the detailing at? Well, as I've said, I learned everything from the Seminoff book years and years and years ago. The truth is, I don't know if I'm using his exact techniques or anything at this point, because I've kind of done my own thing for the last 25 years or better. I mean, I'd learned it to begin with there, so I would assume I'm doing something very similar to what he's doing. But the truth is, I know he gets much more detailed, much more technical in terms of using oscilloscopes and all kinds of things to, test all kinds of waves and things. I don't do any of that. I do it all by ear, by feel. Mine's more like the Stradivari method, if you will. And I've said before, once it sounds good, you just got to know when to stop, and that's kind of what I do. Now, I do try to carve to the measurements that I measured on that Lloyd Loar mandolin. The main reason is that just happened to be, and I just got lucky, it was luck of the draw, it just happened to be one of the very best Lloyd Loar mandolins ever. I've had other Lloyd Loar mandolins in here, and to be quite honest, I wouldn't give you 50 cents for them, the way they sound. I mean, a couple of them. Well, actually, there was only really one that just didn't have any sound at all. It was just not that good. All the rest of them have been pretty darn good. But the one I happened to take apart was hands and fists above the rest of them. It was awesome. It really was. And people are always saying, why are your mandolins so loud? Well, that particular Lloyd Loar mandolin that I measured in thousands of inches was really loud. So there you go. There's something to be said for the specific way to carve an instrument. And there you go. And like I've said before, please don't ask for those measurements. I'm not giving them out. That's just the one thing. That's the only thing in all of this stuff that I don't share. I share everything else. I just don't share that. So let me go to the next question. Do you use the thicknessing? Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the one I just read. How would you get a neck from a glossy neck to a satin finish? What grit would you use? Well, you can probably the quickest, easiest way is just to use steel wool, like triple-aught steel wool. Will just make it a satiny finish in almost no time. Then you can buff it back to whatever kind of a low luster you want. But if you just want a complete satiny finish, that's kind of the way it'll work. It'll do it for you. So that's what I'd recommend, is just use a real fine steel wool and go from there. John C. says he has a dumb question, but since a sound post seems important in a violin, why don't guitars have sound posts? Well, it's a little different technology the way I think of it, John. Now, this is my take on this. I haven't read this anywhere. I haven't seen it anywhere. This is my opinion. To me, a violin is a different technology than the other instruments. It's not anything special. It's just different. The difference is, first of all, they don't use, in my opinion, they just don't use the best sound quality material on the backs and sides of violins. They're using maple. Maple just doesn't ring all that well. Now, granted, we're using it on a mandolin. There's a different reason for it on a mandolin as opposed to a violin. On the violin, the reason that, in my opinion, that they need the sound post is it does actually help send the vibration, but it's a different kind of a vibration. Rather than a plucking of a string, you're continually making that string vibrate with that bow. It's that helps sends that sound down through the back, helps spread it out and transfer it to the back. On a mandolin, the reason they use maple back and sides is just simply for the hardness and to bounce the sound back out. It's a sound. It's not to vibrate and to sound pretty like it does in a guitar. That's not the purpose in a mandolin for the kind of mandolins we build. Now, it could be the purpose in a mandolin for the tremolo, for the orchestral sound, for the classical type mandolinist, that type of thing. Then that would be a different reason to use a different kind of a wood and stuff in the back of the mandolin. But if you're building a bluegrass type mandolin, one that kind of is, we consider the mandolin to be kind of like a snare drum in a band, and it bounces the sound back out on that chop, then that hard maple plays that role in the mandolin. But in the violin, that sound post, by doing that, it really does help spread that sound out and make that whole thing vibrate continuously like this, where the mandolin is a pump, 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 that type of thing. Completely different technology, in my opinion. Now, why doesn't a sound post work in a mandolin? It makes it harsh. It just makes it sound tinny with the plucking of the strings versus the continuing bowing. It just doesn't sound very good in a mandolin. Now, I have used sound posts in mandolins on a few occasions where they were really cheap mandolins and the tops were caving in. And, we were just trying to make them playable so a kid could learn how to play on the thing, that kind of thing. Then I use a sound post because it's just cheap and easy and quick and dirty, So I do what's necessary and what fits the budget, But overall, a sound post is not a good thing in most instruments. It's only good in a violin, and it's only good because of that continuous bowing, vibration, action. In my opinion, again, that's all my words. I ain't ever heard that nowhere else. So there you go. Take it for what you think it's worth. Next question. Okay, let's see here. I expected them to scroll up, and they haven't yet, so there you go. Okay. John's question got posted twice there, so Um, somebody pointed out there, maybe he has a two-way truss rod, and that may have been, go back to that one where the guy was straightening the neck. Yeah, back up the truck. Let me just say this. You've heard me say it before. It's my kind of my rant here, if you will. Those two-way truss rods should be outlawed, and it is possible that you have a two-way truss rod in that instrument and you've adjusted it the wrong way, which will make a lot of underbow in the neck. Check that. It's righty tighty. In other words, looking at the end of the screw, you twist it to the right or clockwise. You twist it clockwise to tighten it. You untwist it left, and that would be anti-clockwise for my millimeter friends, or counterclockwise if you live in the States, and that would loosen it. But counterclockwise on a two-way truss rod will loosen to a point, and then it'll start getting tight again, and if you keep going, it will force underbow in your neck. Two-way truss rods should be outlawed. It should be a federal offense to put them in an instrument. So in case you have one of those, check that first before you go taking the fretboard off. Okay, I'm glad somebody pointed that out. That's good thinking, because it could be that. And I swear to you, I promise you, 8 out of 10 of them I've seen in the shop have been turned the wrong way. Crazy. I don't know why that is. Have you ever used your side bender to remove the bulge in a guitar top? Not really. No, I don't think so. Yeah, whenever again, you've heard me say it time and time and time again. I'm not much on bending things and getting them to stay with heat. It just doesn't work. Heat, moisture, all that kind of stuff. It'll take things apart, and it will sort of kind of work for a while, but it will pull back to the same place it pulled to the first time. It just will. And if you don't think it will, go ahead and try it and tell me in a few years if it worked, because it won't. Okay, oh man, it scrolled that time. It's funny how you just touch this and man, it just shoots up the screen. Other times it just takes forever. Wow, I can't even find where it must be a bunch of them there now. Any chance of building a redwood guitar for my personal use down the road? I've already got that first guitar I built out of redwood, and it's killer. I built one mandolin out of redwood. It's killer. I mean, killer. It's not sort of okay. It's killer. Both of them are. So that's how I know that. It's not like I'm just supposing or guessing. And let me back up the truck even just a little bit further, and that is when I very, very first started building my own instruments, my own mandolin, etc. I had friended with a fellow that was in the local Pacific, Missouri area, and he was already building guitars and stuff, and had been building them for a while. And honestly, I can't think of his name. I want to say something like Paul Smith, but that doesn't quite sound right. Anyway, he was building them, and he always used redwood tops. And man, they were good sounding guitars. So that's another reason I know, because it wasn't just me. He had already done it, and they were great sounding instruments. So no, I probably won't be building another one in the future. I'm not saying I won't, but I probably not. Okay. Man, I have lost my place here. It's really difficult. Yeah, it's really scrolled around. I can't tell where I'm at. Old School Fool. Did you ever meet or know John Pickering from the Picks, Buddy Holly's backup singers? No, I don't think so, Old School Fool. I don't believe I know that name, so. What is the difference between a fiddle and a violin? Well, it's that you just making me tell that old silly joke. A violin has strings, and a fiddle has strings. the old guy it's the person who's holding it. It really makes the biggest difference. That really is the truth. And that's not just being silly. The person holding it makes it a violin or makes it a fiddle. When I hold it, they're not even really either one of those. It's more like a squawk box when I'm holding it. So there's really a third. But anyway, it truly is who's playing the instrument, whether it's a violin or whether it's a fiddle. That's the real truth of it. Okay, I really have gotten mixed up on where I'm at. Why is bracing carved so thin? Okay. I apologize in advance. That's the username here. Why is bracing carved so thin? Is it to retain tone vibration? It seems like the more you carve, the less strength you have. Well, of course, that's 100% true. What you're saying is 100% true. You know, it's a balancing act. That's all it is. When you're carving the top, when you carve the top real thin, that's a balancing act. When you do anything on an instrument under that much tension, it's a balancing act. You have to know what you can get away with and how far you can take it. I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I just go by what's come in the past. I really, truly don't try to be too innovative in those areas. There's no point in pushing the margin too far because thousands upon thousands of people have already tried all of that. And it always comes back to the standard model. And so I just kind of follow the standard model on all of that stuff. Now, having said that, there's always some little minor things that make a difference. Like you've seen us use time and time and time again, a very high quality piece of wood in the bridge, what's the word I'm looking for? Bridge plate. Thank you. Really complicated word. Anyway, the bridge plate area, we often take out the piece of junk that's been put in there by the factory. And most of the time, it's a piece of junk. They just use some scrap wood and stick it in there. It's not quality stuff, and people go, it's a Martin guitar. You're defacing a Martin guitar. No, I'm fixing a Martin guitar. It's of no value if it's got the top bulged up and it can't be played. You can say what you want, sugarcoat it all you want, cry in your beer all you want, but the bottom line is if it don't work and if it don't play, then it's just a wall hanger. And I don't care if it's got Martin's name on it, Taylor's name, or anybody else's name. It's a wall hanger if it don't work. And so we fix them by putting in quality parts where the factory put in crud. And I use crud to be the nicest word I can think of because it's crud. It really is. Yeah, and why they skimp in those areas, it just makes no sense at all. So having said the thing about the carving thin, if you put in quality wood, you can go thinner, and if you put in really good quarter sawn braces, you can go thinner. But you can only do any of that to a certain point, and then you get diminishing returns. So there you go. Have I ever done or will I do a video on overcoming mistakes? I don't make that many mistakes. I make a few. I'm not sure how to take that one. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. If you had some specific thing you were thinking of, perhaps we could. But yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes or maybe got the cart in front of the horse, did something before I should have, like the order of operations, glued the top on before I put that little brace inside that guitar that on that video 2 videos ago. I could go back and put that brace in. It wouldn't be no big deal. But quite honestly, the guitar will just sound better without the darn brace, and that's not in a critical spot. It's really not. I'm not just saying that because I forgot. I'm just telling you, black and white truth, that brace isn't needed. Those X braces are needed. The braces around the bridge plate area are needed. that brace off to the side on there, and it ain't got nothing to do with nothing. I mean, like Bill Monroe says, it ain't no part of nothing. Why they even put those in there, I'm not even 100% sure, to be honest. And they don't really help you transfer the sound. You know, people are going to say, oh, it helps transfer the sound. No, it doesn't. It deadens the sound. All of the bracing deadens the sound, I guarantee you. Black and white fact, whether you want to believe it or not. And that's why you want to carve it as thin as you can carve it. And that's why so many people scallop their braces, etc. and so forth, to get rid of all that extra clunky wood that's in there. But you can only do it down to the point of diminishing return. Anyway, enough on that. Would I ever consider using a carbon fiber neck rod instead of a truss rod? I'm not a fan of the non-adjustable rods. I've said it. I kind of own both sides of the fence, really, on this. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I realize on mandolins, if you've got the proper neck in a mandolin, you know, with the way I do it and laminate it, you really don't even need a truss rod. You really don't. I've got mandolins that are 35 years old and they're just as straight as a string. But I put truss rods in them because that's what people expect. And if you don't have them in there, they get all uptight about it. And so there I put them in there. And that's just the truth. On a guitar, you got to have a truss rod. It's just too long of a neck and it's going to bow on you. So you need a truss rod. Because of that, I'm not a big fan of the stationary truss rods. There's not much point in putting a truss rod in there if you can't adjust it, in my opinion. And yeah, I know carbon fiber is very stiff, but it's not the magic bullet. Everybody thinks carbon fiber is like gold. No, it's not. It's just another material, and people use it, and it sort of works, but it's got its flaws too. So I'm not that big a fan on the non-adjustable truss rods. If you need a truss rod, you need an adjustable truss rod. But you don't need a two-way truss rod. Don't get me started on that again. So would a guitar with sycamore back and sides with a redwood top, the hidden gem, but treated like redheaded stepchild? Well, Brent, you've hit on a good combination there, I think. First of all, sycamore is, in my opinion, again, it's my opinion, sycamore is far more resonant than maple, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's more resonant than rosewood or mahogany or another quality wood, but it's far more resonant, in my opinion, than maple. So I think a sycamore-sided instrument, guitar, for instance, with a redwood top would be a good combination. I think it would sound good. The redwood top on just about any back and sides is going to sound good. I'll just flat tell you, you will not be sorry if you build one out of a redwood top. Now, the main difference between redwood and the other, of course, first difference would be the color, of course, but the second difference is the softness. Redwood is softer. It's undoubtedly softer. So you need to maybe just keep it an extra 10 thousandths thick. Say you take your spruce down to 100 thousandths. I would go 110 thousandths on the redwood. Your bracing, I'd leave them just a little bit more beefy because you're making redwood bracing. If you went with spruce bracing on a redwood top, you could do that. There's no law against it, but I tend to use the same bracing that's in the same top. So anyway. Yeah, there's no end to experimenting with this kind of thing. No end to it at all. You could go on forever. We're at 9:03 already. I cannot believe it. How the time flies. 222 folks on live right now. That's cool. For those that have joined us lately, please go over and subscribe to my son's channel. Just do me a favor and do that. It's not that big a deal, and I'm not asking that much. You don't have to pay nothing. It ain't going to cost you anything. Just go over there, click on his channel, and subscribe. Help him out. I'd really appreciate it. And besides that, you get to watch a horse swim. I mean, how many people get to see swimming with a horse? Let me get one more question, and we're going to be done here. Let me try to find a good one. This is kind of an interesting question. Jest in Rage? Jest in Rage. Jest in Rage. Okay. He's asking if you could have one instrument that you repaired for a customer and keep it for your personal use, which one would it be? Well, I think that almost without a doubt, you already probably know which one that is. That's that Lloyd Lower mandolin that I took apart. Now, that just happened to be owned by my uncle at the time. It's not owned by him now. But if I could have one instrument that I've worked on over the years, it would probably be that one. That instrument's worth a mint, a gold mint. It truly is. It's worth a lot of money. I think the last time it sold, I think it was in the neighborhood of $250,000. So there you go. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was in that neighborhood. So that, I guess that's the easy cop-out answer. The rest of them, honestly, kind of run together. I can't think of any one. I mean, I know I've seen some really fine instruments come through here that sound really great, and I would like to have a ton of those, but I can't think of any particular one that stands out above the rest. What size is my favorite finger plane? This will be the last question. I always get confused, so I'll measure it again, but I believe it's 10 millimeters. I will double check it just to be sure, because I think it is. Yes, 10 millimeters. I have a 12 millimeter, which is my second favorite, but the 10 millimeters is my favorite. Now, I don't own an 8 millimeter finger plane. That might be really handy at a lot of times, especially when you get into detail stuff. But the 10 millimeter is my go-to finger plane. And you might say, why would you want one so small? Well, first of all, it's just like anything. The bigger it is, the harder it is to push. The big 12 millimeter one, and I say big, it's 2 millimeters bigger than this one. But even that one, you notice it's harder to push. But on softwood, that 12 millimeter is, it's wonderful. And I even have a bigger one. I have an 18 millimeter. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. I'm pretty sure it's 18 millimeter. And this one's fine too on really soft wood. But in general, especially carving the maple, this 10 millimeter is where it's at. So, and then lastly, this one here has been very helpful with my hands in the shape they're in. So this one sits in the palm here, and you can just kind of guide it with your finger and push it. But I can't feel as accurate with this one. Plus, the foot on this is pretty big. It's pretty long. Now, looks like it's only 10 millimeter also, which is kind of good. Yeah, it's only 10 millimeter also. And I did reshape this thing a lot. I've shortened the foot a little bit. I took some of the arch out of it. This one had really a high arch, and I didn't care for that too much, so I flattened the sole a little bit. It's still arched, but I flattened it some. So anyway, I did highly modify this. A viewer sent this to me, but this thing is like a lifesaver right now for me. Well, that's going to be about it. Don't forget to watch the Allison Krauss video as well. Please subscribe to my son's channel, and it'll be same time, same place next week. Now, I say same place. I might actually be coming live to you from my house next Friday, because next Thursday night, we'll probably take all this gear up to the house and do a test on at least one song next Thursday night probably around 7 to 8 o'clock p.m. So if you're around next Thursday evening and you just want to catch that one live little short event, that may happen next Thursday night. I can't even promise that it will. But look forward, put a note on your calendar for December 16th at 7 o'clock p.m. and we'll do a live Christmas show, and we'll try to bring in a special guest or two. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.